So let's just jump right into it. Today, we're unpacking the Iraqi dinar and the quantum financial system. We're going to really explore the history of dinar speculation, dive into the actual structural market mechanics, and trace how this decades-old discussion has recently shifted right into the digital age of cryptocurrency. What if one currency could absolutely secure your financial future? I mean, it's a completely understandable and powerful thought, right? That exact question is driving millions of people to invest in foreign currencies and new digital systems, sincerely hoping for a life-changing revaluation. And honestly, it makes sense why you'd want that to be true. So today, we're going to look really closely and respectfully at the structural realities behind this, relying entirely on verified financial data, historical records, and regulatory alerts. The Alabama Securities Commission actually put out a pretty stark quote about this. They warned that fraudsters lure investors with the promise of quote-unquote control over a large amount of foreign currency with a relatively small initial outlay. See, the appeal of a massive can't-miss financial windfall is incredibly powerful. And regulatory agencies are issuing these specific warnings because they see promoters essentially selling a dream of extravagant profits with virtually no downside. 500,000%. Just let that number sink in for a second. That staggering figure represents the exact appreciation required for the current Iraqi dinar just to reach the pre-war rate of $3.22. And I know a lot of sincere believers are actively anticipating that exact rate. But to figure out if a jump like that is even structurally possible, we really have to look at the mechanics of how currency actually works. Which brings us to Section 1, the dinar revaluation dream. And that leads right into Section 2, economic realities of currency. You know, a really crucial piece of context here is the difference between artificial rates and floating market rates. Before 2003, Saddam Hussein artificially set the exchange rate above $3. Now, that wasn't based on global trading at all. It was entirely dictated by strict authoritarian government controls. But when those controls were removed, the currency had to adjust to legitimate floating market forces, basically global supply and demand. Once a currency is subject to modern global market realities, it physically cannot just return to an artificial peg. And here is where we hit a massive structural hurdle. Think about the current dinar supply. There are trillions of Iraqi dinars in circulation right now. If they were suddenly revalued to that proposed $3.22, the resulting market cap for Iraq's currency would impossibly eclipse the entire world's gross domestic product. The whole world's. An economy just cannot mathematically expand by that much overnight without triggering catastrophic global financial consequences. We also need to clarify a highly misunderstood term, and that's redenomination. Redenomination is just an administrative process of deleting the zeros from a currency. It changes the face value without altering the actual purchasing power. So when the Iraqi government talks about removing zeros, if they delete 3 zeros, 1,000 old dinars just become 1 new dinar. Your purchasing power stays exactly the same. It is absolutely not an overnight revaluation that magically multiplies your wealth. Okay, let's move to Section 3, how currency promoters profit. So if an overnight 500,000% revaluation is economically impossible, we have to ask, who's actually benefiting here? Well, currency sellers often proudly display their money services business, or MSB, registrations. This kind of makes them appear to be regulated investment advisors. But an MSB registration just allows a business to exchange currency. It absolutely does not classify them as a fiduciary. What it does do, though, is allow them to legally collect massive transaction fees, sometimes up to 20% on every single sale. It's actually fascinating to trace the historical timeline of this whole narrative. It literally started back in 1996 when a guy named Harvey Barnard drafted a rather mundane tax reform proposal called NSARA. Then, in the early 2000s, an internet personality known as the Dove of Oneness kind of hijacked that term, claiming it was a secret law tied to global debt forgiveness and prosperity funds. Fast forward to the 2010s, and that myth merged with the Iraqi dinar revaluation speculation. And now, in the 2020s, it's evolved yet again, being digitized into what promoters call the quantum financial system. Let's dive right into that in Section 4, the QFS crypto connection. To really get a handle on this, we have to separate fact from fiction. Real quantum computing in finance is absolutely happening. Major players like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs are investing billions to optimize risk analysis and derivatives pricing. But, and this is a big but, fact checkers confirm there is absolutely zero evidence of a fake, secret, satellite-based quantum financial system designed to replace SWIFT and all global banking. It's a classic case of taking real, complex technology and twisting it into a completely fictional narrative. We see the exact same thing happening with regulatory terminology, like ISO 20022. Now, ISO 20022 is actually a totally legitimate, highly structured, global messaging standard for processing financial transactions. Honestly, it's pretty boring stuff. But it's not a secret code for a new gold-backed system. Scammers intentionally weaponize this boring banking standard to confuse investors into believing that specific digital tokens are the backbone of a fictional system. When we start de-weaponizing these buzzwords, the strategy becomes super clear. They'll throw around terms like ISO compliance or Basel III regulations. They'll claim XRP is backed by gold or XLM is backed by silver and promise a global currency reset. All of this is just designed to make a fictional system sound incredibly complex and legitimate, ultimately driving retail capital straight into speculative or completely fraudulent assets. Which brings us to our final and most important section. Section 5, protecting your financial future. There is a really heartbreaking post from a Reddit user that says, "Help, my dad got scammed by QFS LedgerLink Connect. His crypto assets may have been moved against his will." A 73-year-old father who wasn't overly tech-savvy believed the QFS narrative and attempted to connect his hardware wallet to a so-called QFS network. This just shows the devastating, real-world reality of what happens when these fictional narratives are used as bait for modern phishing attacks. It's genuinely awful. And the steps of this modern crypto phishing scam are almost always the same. First, fraudsters claimed your QFS account needs linking. Next, they direct the victim to a fake website. Then, they harvest the 24-word seed phrase, which is basically the master key to your entire crypto wallet. The moment you hand that over, they instantly drain your crypto. Because blockchain transactions are permanent, once it's gone, it is gone for good. To give you a sense of the massive global scale of this fraud, just look at this number. $1 million. That is the exact amount that Vietnamese police recently seized from just a single fake QFS coin ring. These organizers were specifically targeting vulnerable believers, claiming their tokens were tied to ancient national treasures and this quantum system. It's happening on a huge global scale. So we really want to empower you with the knowledge to spot the red flags and avoid them. Always exercise skepticism if you encounter specific date predictions for a revaluation or if someone guarantees massive profits. Watch out for high pressure to act quickly, claims of secret bank special rates, or anonymous insider testimonials. If you see any of these, take a massive step back and verify with official regulatory sources like the SEC or your state's Securities Commission. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, really important question to ask yourself. Are you investing based on structural economic reality, or are you paying fees to participate in a financial fantasy? It's completely natural to seek financial security, especially in today's world. But it is absolutely vital to know the true mechanics of what you're buying into. Thanks for exploring these structural realities with me today. Keep learning, stay skeptical, and please always protect your assets.